Would you please stand for our pledge to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let us pray. Again tonight, we ask for your guidance and leadership in making decisions that will benefit our town and all citizens of Nashville. Amen.
Amen.
The first item on our agenda is the approval of our minutes. So, Councilman, have you looked at August 16th, 2022, the regular meeting minutes, and are there any corrections?
Move to approve.
There are some.
Okay, where?
On page 4, they mentioned that Larry and I went up. We went up to Running Rapids. Do you remember that, Larry, to look at the slurry?
Oh, yes,
And that was not Mr. Lansing that went with us. That was Mayor Street, along Mayor Street.
Okay.
that's true.
Is there another one on these?
On page 14, in the minutes at the top of the page, we were talking about the breaks on Break Street, the water line break. How this was a 5th repair. Randy, did you ever come up with a total of how much we've spent on those repairs?
I have not, no.
Any other corrections? If not, do I hear a motion for us to approve these minutes?
Move to approve with the noted corrections.
Second.
All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's it for our minutes. Now, let's move on to our next item on our agenda, which is 3A, is the annexation of the Nashville Junction property into the Nashville Downtown Revitalization Municipal Service District. And Randy?
Thank you, Mayor. So Michael Hurd, as you know, owns the Nashville Junction, and he has petitioned to be annexed into the Nashville Revitalization Municipal Service District. His application was included. The state statute prescribes a very specific way in which properties need to be brought in, and we have followed those. It starts with the application. Then the area has to be contiguous, which it is. There has to be a request to receive the services, which was in the application. And there has to be a public hearing set on the matter. So tonight, we've published notice of the public hearing on this. And upon completion of the public hearing, then the council will have the first reading of 2 required readings of an ordinance to annex this property into the MSD.
Do I hear a motion that we go into a public hearing?
So made.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there anyone that would like to speak to this issue at this time? If not, do I hear a motion that we come out of the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. So now we'll move down to the recommendation to hold required. We've done that. So, council, what is your concern? What is your desire with this?
Do you need to have the first reading?
Oh, we're going to have the
The first
first reading. I forgot that. Randy?
Sure. It's ordinance 2204. It says, whereas the town of Nashville has established the Nashville Downtown Municipal Service District to provide for downtown revitalization, infrastructure improvements, special projects, and promotion of events and businesses within the district. And whereas Michael Hurt of Hurt LLC, owner of the below listed property, commonly known as 306 West Railroad Street and 723 South Barn Street, has submitted a complete application to the town of Nashville for the annexation into the Nashville Downtown Municipal Service District. And I won't bother reading the legal description. Flip to the next page. And whereas the property is contiguous to the Nashville Downtown Service District and does require the services of the district, and whereas per NC General Statute 160A-538, a public hearing on the annexation of said property into the Nashville Downtown Municipal Service District was scheduled and advertised for September 6, 2022, and whereas per NC General Statute 160A-538, the Municipal Service District Expansion Plan report was prepared and made available for public inspection in the office of the city clerk, should be town clerk, for the last 2 weeks prior to September 6th to this meeting, public hearing. Now therefore be it ordained by the town council of the town of Nashville, North Carolina, that the above listed property is hereby annexed into the Nashville Downtown Municipal Service District effective July 1 of 2023. Passed, approved, and ordained this 20th day of September. There has to be a second reading on this, so.
So this will be the first reading, they will have to have a second reading.
Correct.
Okay.
But if you could get a motion and a second to
Yeah.
accept or adopt the first reading of this ordinance.
Do I hear a motion that we adopt the first reading?
Move to adopt first
Second.
reading.
All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
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 The next item on our agenda is public hearing on the demolition cost of condemned structures. Is Sean here tonight?
No.
If not, I'll read this. The summary of the issue. Per our attorney Ryan King, the town must hold a public hearing and confirm demolition cost of abandoned and derelict structures at 125 Circle Drive, 328 6th Street, 208 Vale Street, 206 North Body Street, and 212 Vale Street. A notice of public hearing for September the 6th, 2022 at 7 p.m. was placed in the August 25th, 2022 edition of the Nashville Graphic. At this public hearing, the town needs to confirm the demolition cost as an exact figure. The minutes must mark the date, hour, and minute of the confirmation and the confirmed amount. The town clerk must then give a copy of those figures to the town tax collector, who files a lien on the property. After that, the town can collect the demolition cost in the same manner as property taxes are collected on a tax lien foreclosure by contacting the town attorney. The following demolition costs are to be approved as lines per the town attorney's recommendation. 125 Circle Drive is $4,533.20. The property on 328 6th Street is $8,033.20. The property on 208 Vale Street is $4,441.80. The property on Body Street, 206 North Body Street, is $16,391. On 212 Vale Street is $4,800. Do you have anything to say in addition to that?
Madam Mayor and members of the council, first of all, I apologize for my tardiness. I lost track of time over there at Town Hall, working on a few things, so I'm sorry on that. Good to see everybody once again.
All right.
It
Good to
is
see everybody
great
as
to
a
see
member
you,
of Town
Sean.
Nashville again. We do have a few properties that we're trying to do liens on. We have to do a public hearing on them. I think what we'll do, Madam Mayor, is we'll take them one by one so that you guys can vote one by one on them to assess liens.
Okay, we have to have the public hearing first. I hadn't
Yes.
opened it for that.
Okay,
So,
yes, ma'am.
do I hear a motion that we go in a public hearing concerning these properties?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any people that would like to speak concerning this matter at this time? If not, do I hear,
I have a question. How did we derive those numbers? Because none of them seem to fit the bids, for the various bids that we got on demolition.
Guess what you talking about as far as deriving the numbers of what the contractor bid on them versus the payout
Right.
at the end of the job?
Mhm.
The payout on the end of the job has to go in what the town will be assessed for getting the property tested for asbestos. That regularly runs the town about $415. Then running in the graphic twice, that runs the town about $118.20. Then we told that all up with the demolition price to get the final cost. So for like 125 circle, you see $4,533.20. That's the total cost with demolition, asbestos testing, and running in the graph, so the town can recoup back everything that we put out in the process.
okay,
Yes, ma'am.
good.
Can we get clarification too on North Body Street versus South Body Street?
Yes, the one that we have tore down was 206 North Body. I believe the guys who bid on it put it South Body, but it was North Body, the one behind the courthouse and the Nash County Cartel admin building.
Okay, so they weren't basing their price on South Body?
No,
Okay.
he went to the right address.
Okay.
He just put the wrong address down. You can see one of my guys, he wrote them down, but of course you can see on one of them, instead of putting Bell Street, he put Bell Street. But we knew what he was talking about. I
So
asked
there
him,
is
could
a
he make-
residence and a barn on the north?
Yes,
Body
that's
Street?
everything.
Okay.
Yes. And I did ask him, could he correct that, but majority of the time, these contractors, when they send these invoices, these quotes in, they got other jobs they're doing, they don't really have time. So I told him that we knew, as long as we went with him on site and knew that he had bid on the right place, because I meet every one of them on site for bids, to make sure that he bid the right one, I was okay with it.
Okay, thank you.
Sean, has
Yes, sir, Mr. Taylor.
any of these properties, how do they stand as far as being up to date on the taxes? Were they all delinquent?
Yes, sir, every one of them.
All of them were delinquent?
Yes, sir. Majority of them are deceased properties, air properties that people in Philadelphia, one guy was in Rocky Mount, we did try to serve a notice on his place in Rocky Mount, but when we went to his property over there, it was in worse shape than the house that he was doing over in Nashville, so I knew he couldn't be residing there.
So Sean, explain to me, how are we gonna get our money back?
Well, the process is that we will, if you guys tonight decide to confer the lien on these properties, the town will go forward there by letting the tax collector know there is a lien on the property. We did speak with town attorney on this, Mr. Ryan King, and he will be more than welcome to speak with you one-on-one. I did speak with him tonight before the meeting. He's more than welcome to speak with you one-on-one with that matter if you want to get more deep with it. But we're looking at, if we have to do a tax foreclosure on it, whoever buys the property will pay the town back what's owed in as far as the demolition side of it. It's two ways you can do it. Either if it's tax foreclosure and the town bids on the property, then the town will pretty much attain the lot. I don't think the town is looking into going that route. I think they're just looking at whoever, if it does go to a tax foreclosure, just whoever buys on it, take care of the owed amount to the town, and then moving forward with doing whatever they want to do with the lot.
What is the fair market value for any one of these 4 or 5? What's the fair market value of them? All of them are probably less than what
Yes.
we're into.
I mean, majority of these areas, not unless you are a contractor that's want to come in and just build a single-family dwelling. I don't think the one on Circle Drive probably could meet the setback as far as building on that, because majority of the houses over there are on different setbacks. I don't think meeting with today's zoning it could. About the only one that I see that is worth being able to go back and build on would be the 6th Street one that we had a house on stilts. That's a pretty decent sized lot that somebody could go back in and build a good house in that area for.
any other questions for him?
I think from my standpoint, it just makes sense to do this because it's minimal cost, and just in case that once we do clear the property, the homeowner sells it. If we don't have a tax lien on it, then they sell it free and clear, and nobody pays us anything.
Yeah.
So it's just that extra step we have to take. It's a necessary part of doing all of this. Are there any other liens on the property that you know of?
Not that we know of as this present moment.
Okay.
Do I hear a motion that we come out of our public hearing considering these demolitions?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Sean?
Madam Mayor, I will make a suggestion, a recommendation tonight that you and the town council confer the liens on these properties to be recorded in the town minutes tonight. Also to be recommended to the tax collector of the town of Nashville tomorrow morning, to be put on the record.
Can we do them all at one time, or do we?
Town Attorney King did
Said
suggest
do
that we
one
it
at a
by
time,
one,
correct.
Just for the records.
Okay, so, council, do I hear a motion that we agree to the demolition cost for 125 Circle Drive at $4,533.20?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Alright. The next property is 328 Sixth Street at $8,033.20. Do I hear a motion?
Motion made.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
The next property is 208 Vale Street at $4,441.80.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
The next property is 206 North Body Street at $16,391.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And the last property is 212 Vale Street at $4,800. Do I hear a motion?
So made.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so you can take it tomorrow morning.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will get this to tax collector and let her know to put it on the record. Thank you.
Sean, but without me sitting here trying to add it up, what is the total amount?
$38,199.
How much, Louise?
$38,199.
Okay,
And
thank you.
20 cents.
$199.20.
And that's in our budget, right?
Yes, that was in last year's fiscal budget, so
But-
these have
which is
been
that?
paid out to the contractor who did the demolition on both of them.
Right.
They've been paid in full, so now the town's just gonna try to recoup whatever we can recoup back on in the near future.
Thank you, Sean. We
Thank you,
appreciate
ma'am.
your efforts.
Yes, ma'am.
The next item on our agenda is public hearing the purchase of 200 South Body Street, Old Acme Cleaners Building. Randy?
Thank you, Mayor. General Statute 160A-20G requires anytime a public body such as a municipality buys real estate, they hold a public hearing on it. Tim Evans is the owner of the former Acme Cleaners at 200 South Body Street, and he has accepted the town's offer of $410,000 to purchase that property, and it's the town's intent to repurpose it as a community recreation center. In order to complete that purchase, the council must now hold a public hearing on its purchase.
Do I hear a motion that we go into a public hearing?
So made.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak concerning the purchase of this building at 200 South Body Street? If not, do I hear a motion to close this public hearing?
Move to close the public hearing.
All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
So, at this time, council, what is your desire concerning the property on 200 South Body Street for the new community recreation center for our town?
Mayor, being no objections from the community, from the members here tonight, and with the presentation of a letter that Randy has given us from the Mid-Atlantic, I move that we move forward with the purchase.
Second.
All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you so much.
And Randy, could you take a minute to expand on this letter so that everyone is aware of the findings?
Sure. As you know, this is a former dry cleaner, and typically there are environmental issues with dry cleaners. Tim Evans had realized that and had an environmental assessment completed on it himself before he put it up for sale. Once the council decided you wanted to pursue the purchase of this, it was advised that we have our own environmental assessment done on it, which the town did, and we received that environmental assessment from Mid-Atlantic Engineering and Environmental Solutions. We do have that environmental assessment. This is kind of a summary of that. This is a letter of professional opinion, and the gist of this says that basically there is contamination on the site, but it's in a concentration according to the state of North Carolina's thresholds is not hazardous for occupation or occupancy for residential or commercial purposes. And this letter that we received tonight does that. One of the sentences, it says, based on the current available information, it is our opinion that the proposed reuse of the site as a municipal recreation center would not pose a public health threat to humans or future occupancy. This assumes the site redevelopment activities continue to be coordinated with the DSCA program moving forward.
Thank you, Randy. The next item on our agenda is public comments, and we have one person, Mary Grace Daughtridge. Please come, state your name and your residence.
My name is Mary Grace Daughtridge. I live at 921 Eastern Avenue here in Nashville. I just would like, and I thank you for letting me speak tonight, but I would like to bring to the council's attention some of the issues that we're having with noise across the street at the L&L, coming in on Eastern Avenue. Not only there, but when you're at stop sign, stop lights, that kind of thing, you're hearing a lot of noise with the basses going on. You know, it's not like people are enjoying being at home. If they have a party at home and the neighbors don't care, that's not an issue, you know. But to force somebody to listen to what they want you to listen to, and I had an altercation last week, and that's one of the reasons that I'm here. I called the police department and we talked. They did ask the guy to leave. He was across the L&L and had just left his vehicle with you could hear it 2 streets over. They informed me at that time there was nothing that they could do because we don't have a noise or nuisance ordinance during the daytime. All we have is 10 o'clock at night to 6 o'clock in the morning.
I think that's a misreading of our current nuisance ordinance.
Okay?
I'll go through it with you another
That's what
time.
the police department
Okay.
told me. So they said there was nothing could be done in the daytime. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Maybe y'all discuss it and see if something can be done about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for bringing your concern. We appreciate it. The next item on our agenda is the proposal of town logo tagline contest. Avery Parker, are you going to talk to us about that?
Thank you. On August 12, 2022, the Town Council discussed logos for both the Public Works vehicles and the water tower. There was a desire from the council to make changes to the current Public Works vehicle emblems as well as for our new logo and tagline to be used on the town's water tower. There was an idea proposed for a logo contest, and I drafted a proposed flyer information packet, and if the town council chooses to move forward, we can start advertising for our logo and tagline contest to open to the general public within Nash County, with the winner winning a $500 grand prize. And to ensure that we receive enough entries, we did open it up to Nash County residents. And designs cannot be submitted from anybody that's within immediate family members of town staff members, which includes their spouses, parents, and children. And once submitted, all designs will become property of the town of Nashville and may be altered at our discretion.
Thank you. Now, she's just presenting this to us to see what you think, council, so let's hear what you think.
I would like for it to be limited to Nashville, since it's, you know, that's my,
I also would, since the council is choosing the winner, I don't see why we can't have staff and family members of staff participate, because I'm thinking of one in particular who's the wife of our Public Works, who's very good with things like this. So I wouldn't want to eliminate them.
Well, we wouldn't know who presented them.
Right, exactly. So I don't see any sort of conflict of interest there. That's all I have. I think it's a great idea, though.
Lynn, what are your thoughts?
I like what we're doing as well as far as using the design contest, and I agree with Kay. I don't know how Larry and Louise feel about it, but since the council is going to be the determining decision as far as who wins the contest, I would love to open it up to others. And I think maybe I probably feel a little bit like Louise as far as I'm not sure why we open it up to everyone in the county, since it is for the town.
And I agree with her on that also.
Now, we are going to have staff members who do not reside in the town of Nashville. Is that going to be an issue?
So I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
We will have staff members who are
Staff
not
members.
residents of the town of Nashville.
I still think we have to
Okay.
keep it with the residents of Nashville, the
Okay.
citizens who pay taxes.
It's their logo.
Exactly. And if we don't like anything that's presented, we don't have to accept it, right?
I actually loved the 3 logos that were sent to us.
Exactly. We have
I know.
So I'm fine
We
with
have to
those.
leave it.
Larry, did you have any comments?
I have to concur with basically what everybody else has said, because the emblem that we are using right now on our truck look like we got state vehicles running around in town rather than town vehicles. So, yes, I'm glad that this contest is to be offered.
So what I'm hearing is that, that you agree to this if it's local to Nashville residents, and change it so that staff members, we won't know who they are, their children or whatever can enter into this contest. Is that stated? Any other thing you would like to add to that?
I would think if they live in Nashville.
Right, live in Nashville.
If they reside in the town of Nashville.
Mayor, if I may, something that Louise had, I think it'd be important in our narrative on what we're doing here, we add a sentence in there that, the council reserves the right not to select any if you don't choose so.
Right.
So that people know there may not be any of the designs that you put in that are received that you like enough to award the prize to. That way it doesn't lock us into awarding a prize if there isn't one that you clearly like.
Do I hear a motion that we move forward with those changes to the flyer that will be sent out?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
All right.
So move forward those changes. The next item on our agenda is the ordinance amendment for tiny houses. Sherry?
Good afternoon, everyone. So I had an inquiry regarding tiny houses to be placed in Nashville. Sorry. And actually, tiny houses have increased in popularity and are recognized as a cost-effective housing option. North Carolina is a tiny house friendly state, and tiny houses on foundations can be permanent homes in North Carolina. So therefore, with regards to our Chapter 18 land use regulations, so staff and planning board is proposing to add definition for tiny houses in the current definition, just to state what it is. And in addition to that, so the popular image of tiny home is one on wheels without, the popular image of a tiny house, if you see it, is one on wheels without a permanent foundation. So allowing these in our residential zoning districts, we're requesting that these tiny homes be on a permanent foundation. So also with regards to Chapter 160D 702, that section of the general statute does not allow the town to set minimum square footage of any residential structure subject to the regulation on North Carolina Residential Code. However, due to that, the home will still have to meet North Carolina Residential Code, in which our Nash County does our building inspections. So our planning staff has reviewed the attached text amendment with the Nashville Planning Board at a duly published public hearing, which was held on Wednesday, August 31st, and the planning board is recommending adoption of the text amendment defining tiny house and establishing appropriate requirements for them. So a public hearing for the town council's consideration on the text amendment was published in the August 25th and September 1st, 2022 editions of the Nashville Graphic newspaper for September 6, 2022. And upon conclusion of the public hearing, so the town council is to approve the text amendment tonight. So in your packet, you have a copy of a memorandum that was prepared by the Department of Insurance of the Office of State Fire Marshal with regards to tiny homes. And some of that information is located within the actual the tiny house ordinance. And you also have the planning board recommendation stating their recommendation to approve the proposed ordinance amendment amending Chapter 18 Land Use Regulations, Section 18-23 definitions and 18-109 of the Table of Permitted Uses and notes to the table of permitted use, notes to the table of permitted uses of Nashville Code of Ordinances to add the tiny house language. And within that ordinance, so as you see on page 70, you have your definitions of adding the definition of the tiny house, meaning a building less than 600 square feet in gross floor area, constructed to accommodate one dwelling unit on a single lot. In section 2, as section 18-109 of the chapter 18, article 2, division 4 of the Nashville Code of Ordinances of the table of permitted uses, allowing a tiny house in the A1, R30, R15, R10, R6M, R6, R4, and MF zoning districts. And also with the notes of the table of permitted uses, they are listed in 18, which this will be an addition to the bottom of the notes to the table of permitted uses. And that's all I have.
Do I hear a motion to open the public hearing on the ordinance amendment for tiny houses? Is there a second?
Second.
Is there anyone that would like to speak concerning this in the audience?
I have a question.
Okay.
I'll ask you a question.
Can you come up to the mic, please?
I don't have it constructed, I'm just coming off the top of my head.
That's fine.
Doretha Johnson, 110 East Washington. My concern, I just wanted to know, since this is just a public hearing, is this a proposal that is going to take place? Is it just that we're talking about it? Is anything put in place yet? And second question is, are the tiny houses going to be permitted on lots that are already existing, that have a residential property on it now, if they're 600 feet? Because I know that they're supposed to be, tiny houses are supposed to be 25%, the size of a tiny house on a lot, supposed to be 25% of the property that you have, or less, and it has to be on a 5,000 square foot lot. So if this is going to be negated, and then you're going to make the ordinance just for Nashville on your own, there are a lot of questions about how this can happen. Is there a designated area for tiny houses to be in, or is it just at anybody's?
So they're going to be located in our residential zoning districts that allows normal single-family dwellings, and you only can have, per Code of Ordinances in Nashville, you only can have one dwelling per lot. And by state law, you cannot put a number for the minimum size of a dwelling, the square footage.
So you can only put one
Dwelling
tiny
per
house
lot, that's in our code.
on a lot that's already existing?
Yes,
Okay.
That's
But not
what
with a
in-
resident, not with a home already on it.
right,
So a vacant lot.
right.
So if you have a vacant lot
You can.
behind your house or around, can you put a tiny house there, or it has
No,
to
you
be-
can't, you cannot, so if you already have a primary residence on your lot, you cannot add a tiny house to it.
Okay, so this is just gonna be a community of tiny houses then?
No, no, it'll be just, it could be, but that's in a whole nother zoning district. If you were to do like a development, we will probably, classify that as going into, what we have in our ordinance now in our table of permitted uses as a travel trailer park.
What?
So- That's only in the industrial district.
Oh.
That's only allowed in industrial district, but we do not have any regulations in place yet for actual tiny house development. So right
So
now,
these could be spotted throughout
Right.
town on any vacant lot,
So you
right,
can buy a lot, put a tiny house there,
correct.
if this were to go
and it has to be
through.
with 600 feet, right? Less than
No,
600 feet
that's 600 feet, that's the square footage.
of the house.
Yes,
Of
it
the
could be
house itself.
600 feet or less.
It could be on an acre lot, but only
Yes,
one tiny house.
only one tiny house.
But you could buy an acre a lot and split it all up and put 4 or 5 tiny houses on it.
Even if you did like a subdivision, because we do also have in our ordinance regulations for cluster development that we probably, I think we may have discussed back when we did a plan unit development, well, when that came before. But when you start getting into cluster developments, that's like when you can, reduce the lot by so many square feet or whatnot and contribute that extra square footage to open space.
So this is part of my concern about how many questions that we have and how many things that we're thinking up just looking at this for the first time. Is there any way that we can, first of all, only permit it in the smaller R6s, R4s, and the MF district? but also do it all by special use permit so that it has to come before us?
It's really a single-family dwelling, it's just a small dwelling.
I know, but I'm thinking like if you have an R30 lot where you have a community that has larger homes of greater value, and someone comes in and decides that they have a vacant lot they want to put a tiny home on that's worth $20,000, what does that do to property value?
Right.
Or could you put one in your backyard? In other words, if you have a big lot, you can't do that.
What,
Only
if
you
it's,
subdivide
if it's
the
only
lots.
one, if the lot is vacant, you can place it on your lot. It still has to meet zoning setbacks.
So if you have two lots together that you're using as one lot, you could.
I'm just thinking about someone who has a house in town and they decided they wanted to put one in their backyard. You
No.
Could not do
Only
that.
It would
One.
have to be a separate
Yeah, it has to be on a separate lot.
lot.
I have
Well,
a,
you
Share
can
it.
actually separate a lot.
You can
a
separate
lot
it, yes.
And put a house back there. You can sell a part
And
of
it's
the lot that
still-
you're already on and
Right.
still make room for it.
Right, it's
And
still a
that's gonna-
house.
That's gonna do a lot of, that's gonna make your property value go down a lot, because it's comparable. It's gonna be for comps, all in your area. So I think that needs to be thought out a lot better.
Yeah.
This is something that needs to be studied rather
And
than.
Yeah, I
pondered.
think there's a study that needs to be done on that, so that's all I have to say about that.
And other towns that I've researched, they've been, everybody's going through the same process. So various towns that I've researched, they do not have language out there. They just permit them as a single-family dwelling.
Sherry, I have a question.
Mhm.
Suppose I would buy a lot and put one on my lot and use it for Airbnb. Could somebody do that?
That's, if it falls up under the, if it meets the requirements of that, particular use for that, then you depends on the regulations of what's in our ordinance.
So right now, though, someone could potentially purchase a lot and put a 400 square foot home on there.
Based on this, but it would have to.
Not based on this, I mean, just right now in because we don't
If-
have
if
any
you build
minimum.
Right, if someone
footage.
decides to build a 400 square foot house, they could do so, but it will still have to meet the North Carolina residential code.
Right.
And they would have to hook up with water and sewer.
Yes, and just like with this, they would still
would
have
go.
to
Yeah.
be accessible to water and sewer
No septic tank.
system, no septic.
But based on this, we could drop tiny houses all over town.
Yes.
You could. And you can right now, but even based on like with the smaller lots of like Circle or whatever, some of those smaller lots, whereas a regular house can't meet the setbacks, this could.
Right. So, I mean, the fact that even without having this ordinance, people could be doing it right now, it makes me want to put something in place that we have some sort of control over it, regulating it. Could we require a special use permit or something that just doesn't allow people to go and do it as they wish?
I feel better if we investigate that
Okay.
and get our town attorney involved.
Okay.
The way Sherry and I have been reading this thus far, state statute, it doesn't allow a zoning organization or a local unit of government with zoning to say what the minimum size of a single-family house would be in our ordinance. Now, they could be in covenants
Okay.
for a development, and that's where a lot of times you'll find what the minimum square footage of a house that's being built in here has to be. It's in the covenants, and those are up to the developer and the other people who live in that subdivision to enforce. But everything we've read and seen thus far, it doesn't appear as if we can put that language in an ordinance that has a minimum square footage requirement for a single-family home. But, you know, let us take a look at that.
Okay.
Maybe close the public hearing and table the passage of this ordinance until we have a chance to, well, we're probably gonna have to reach out to the school of government and their legal staff to inquire some more questions.
Now, if we do go forward with this, I noticed that this is pretty bare bones. You know, we haven't talked about what you had just brought up, if you have an HOA or a POA, that you have to comply with that. So I was hoping, this was very detailed, that OSFM NC Department of Insurance memo. Can we incorporate that by reference and just say that it complies with that memo? Because that brings up the administrative requirements, the construction requirements, and details all of like the residential building code requirements. So if we could do that,
Yeah.
I think it would give us greater regulation, at least, on what has to be done. You know, a kitchen has to be included and things like that.
Right, and all of that is listed in that memo.
Right, yeah, if we
Yes.
could just incorporate the memo into our ordinance, I would feel a lot better. Just by referencing it, not listing out every single thing in there.
Do I hear a motion that we come out of our public hearing concerning this?
So made.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And,
Mayor, I'd like to move that we table this till we can do some more research.
okay,
Second.
all those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you so much. It will be tabled until we get more research. Thank you.
Mr. Baker, did you have a question? You had your hand up.
I'm just asking if
Oh, I,
because we're in an area that
you want your seat
is R10, you know, that you answered the question that a person could not put a tiny house on their lot, that's correct.
Pardon?
I'm just saying, since you, and you classify it being in R10, single family, a person could not then put one of these tiny houses on their existing lot. Is that
If
correct?
the
No.
existing lot did not have a residence on it, they could.
Then they could.
But if you have a house.
If you have an
They can't.
existing residence, you can only have one dwelling per lot.
Right.
Oh, so a person who has a home can put a tiny house on their lot?
No.
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 No, one dwelling,
One
meaning the
dwelling per lot.
residence that's existing is the dwelling.
Sherry,
Yes.
you familiar with where I live. I've got a house and then I've got a vacant lot next to our house, but it's all been bought together. On the lot next to me that doesn't have a permanent resident on it, can I put a tiny house on it?
If I go into register deeds and if it's a lot by record, a separate lot by record, regardless if you own both of them, if it's a separate lot, then you could place it
Then I
on your
could.
lot. Yes.
All right. Not that I'm gonna do it, no.
I mean, it's a good point that the one property that we were talking about is too small to put a normal residence on, and so a
you
situation
put a-
like that,
you
I
put a
would
tiny house on
think
it.
it makes sense.
Yeah.
But if you know,
I'm not for dropping tiny houses all over
right,
Nashville.
I feel like it should come before us.
You'll give me a
If it
tiny house,
can.
give me a tiny house village, I might go with that, but not all over the place.
the next item on our agenda is the rezoning of 106 South Austin Street from B2 to O-1, case RZ 2022-01. Sherry?
Okay, so this property that's coming before you, located at 106 South Austin Street, is located right behind the CVS Pharmacy, and owned by JSR Partners LLC. They're requesting to rezone approximately 0.41 acres. Parcel ID 004279, PIN number 3801-1950-7877 in the town of Nashville. It's currently in the B2 Central Business District, and they want to rezone it to the Office Institutional District. And the reason for this being is, right now, since it's in the B2 zoning district, it's only allowed for commercial. So if they rezone it to the OI, Office Institutional Zoning District, they can better utilize it for either an office or residence. So they can use it as either or. And also, so within that surrounding area, you have commercial and you have residents and other offices nearby. And so it's within harmony, so either or office or residential will still be in harmony with the surrounding area, consistent with the future land use map, because right now the future land use map is shown as being town center, so rezoning it, it will still be in town center, so there's no change with that. And so the planning board, they held a published public hearing to the rezoning request on August 31st, and they recommend rezoning, approving the rezoning, noting that it is consistent with the town's 2021 comprehensive plan and is in harmony with the existing surrounding land uses. And so in your packet, I'm not going to read everything in there. I just briefly discussed with the petition and the nearby uses of the properties. And so during the planning board's consideration, based upon their recommendation, they considered the following factors. The proposal in accordance with the land use plan and surrounding planning principles. Is there a convincing demonstration that all permitted under the proposed district classification or proposed text amendment would be in the general public interest and not merely in the interest of an individual or small group, and that there is convincing demonstration that all uses permitted under the proposed district classification would be appropriate in the area, including the proposed change, and that there is convincing demonstration that the character of the neighborhood will not be materially and adversely affected in any use permitted in the proposed change. And so proper notices were done. In your packet, you see I did a 500-foot radius on a map, and that's attached, included in your packet as well as a spreadsheet with all the property owners on it. And they were, property owners were notified with 2 different letters, one for the planning board and one for this town council meeting. And they were properly published also in the graphic for the planning board as well as this meeting. And so the subject property is not located within a floodplain and is not located within the North Carolina DEQ water supply watershed. And if approved, the single-family dwelling on the subject property can be used as a residence or a business. And so in your packet on page 98, the planning board went through the 3 consistency statements and chose number 1, that they moved to recommend approval of RZ 2201 based upon review of and consistency with the Town of Nashville Comprehensive Plan, zoning ordinance, and other official plan that is applicable. The request is consistent with the comprehensive plan, code of ordinances, and adopted policies because A, it is consistent with the future land use map, consistent with the surrounding properties, and is between residential and business districts as described for an OI district. And B, the request is reasonable and in the public interest because the type of structure existing on the property, which is an older home. So both staff and planning board is requesting approval for this rezoning request.
Do I hear,
I was just gonna, Sherry, is this what you call spot rezoning?
Not, well, it can be, but it's still in harmony because you have, right, like I said, right now you have it being the existing zoning district of a B2. So meaning if somebody wanted to put a residence there or live in it, they couldn't because it's commercial. But changing it over to office institution is in harmony, but it will look like it's spot zoning, but it's still conforming with our future land use map.
Spot zoning is generally something that is not conforming, right?
Right, like if you were gonna do like an agricultural right
Right.
there, or,
But you do have some office institution that's not far away from it.
now,
So this could possibly, so those areas that's close to this property, they can probably well change to office institution if there are some other offices
I
around
was
there.
thinking that
Yes.
entire U.
Yes.
So like the whole Alston Street,
Mhm.
over Church, up Body.
Right.
Should all be O&I.
Mhm.
I mean, right now, people are living there.
Right, and they may, this may start that.
Okay.
I can see this, just coming from a planner's
Okay.
vision, this can possibly start a trend of office institution in that area,
Okay.
and which will also make the property more marketable as well. To either use it as an office or a residence.
Right.
okay, do I hear a motion that we go into a public hearing concerning this property?
So,
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to this issue? To this rezoning of 106 South Austin Street? If not, do I hear a motion that we close the public hearing?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So what is the desire of the council?
I move that we proceed with the rezoning.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. The next item on our agenda is the approval of the resolution 2022-31, government deals surplus property auction. And you can see there, Sarah, are you going to speak to this?
Sure, yeah. So as the council probably recalls, we periodically ask department heads if there is anything in their departments that they are ready to part with. So this is the latest list that I have compiled based on their submissions. Ultimately, we will need to have this list deemed surplus before I can then advertise the list in the graphic newspaper. And then we can host a GovDeals auction online in early October. That's if the council approves this list. So,
Council, what are your thoughts?
What year is that Crown Vic?
Chief?
They stopped making them in 2008, so it's.
Yeah, it's way before that.
Before 2008?
Mm-hmm. And none of these vehicles have any of them been taken out of commission, deadline? Or has all of them been deadline? I know the Crown Vic is deadline. But what about the other vehicles? Maintenance? Are we using any of them now?
We are not.
We're not?
One's got the service truck is the one that we recently replaced. The F-150's got a blown motor. And the 95 tandem dump truck, it needs more in repairs than the vehicle is worth.
Okay.
And so if we surplus it now, is one that we'll be requesting to replace with a like-kind replacement next fiscal year. And the Chevy 1500 truck is that's the cemetery vehicle that we recently replaced.
Okay.
Recently replaced, okay. I just don't want to get rid of nothing and then come back before the new budget comes out, so well, I need to replace that truck now. If we can do it to next year, do without it to next year, I'll move to go ahead and approve this.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. The next item on our agenda is approval of a part-time civilian evidence technician accreditor position at the Nashville Police Department. JT, Chief Winston.
You got it right first time.
Chief JT.
How y'all this evening?
Good,
All right.
thanks.
So what this proposal is about, we have an abundance of evidence. It dates all the way back from 1952 that we still have in evidence. And currently, we are putting more in evidence than our guys have time to go through the process of doing the court orders, sitting on it, doing the research and everything, trying to find it out so we can do it. So, and my hopes are to, excuse me, get a civilian person who, one, we don't have to pay as much as a police officer to track down all this extra work. And plus, it will take some of the workload off our detectives who are currently having to do multiple jobs by doing this. So just a little bit about the evidence is you have to do a court order. That's going to take we've had 36 of them sitting on the district attorney's desk now for about 6 months waiting on a judge to sign them and get it back to us. Plus keeping up with everything else we got going on and submitting new evidence and keeping it filed, submitting blood work, fingerprints, just anything that comes along with evidence processing. So in the meantime, once they got a bunch of paperwork on somebody's desk to be signed and stuff, their next job would be to research and hopefully we start implementing a state accreditation. And what that does, that will start setting up a standard that we will adhere by, and also it'll do a little bit of transparency work for us too, but we will have a minimum standard that we have to meet. The sheriff's office and a couple other agencies use CALEA, which is a national accreditation, but that is a whole lot of money and a whole lot of manpower. The state is going to start mandating one in the next 2 years, to my knowledge. And if we could go ahead and get above the 8 ball in it and start researching some information, and this person would start doing that, and we would work within our current fiscal year's part-time budget to accommodate this, if y'all so wish.
A civilian evidence tech, explain how that works for me. I mean, I know what a civilian is, but.
So a lot of agencies are going that route, that are people who go to college that all they want to do is evidence technician stuff and they don't want to be sworn law enforcement. Or there are some people who have retired from state agencies or whatever and they want a part-time job who already have the knowledge, and this would allow us to bring them in and not be law enforcement certified. So they could still process the evidence, do everything. They could even go to a crime scene and process that if we choose to do that, but that's not an avenue that we would start going on right now. But it would allow us to, one, not pay the rate that we were paying a police officer to do this office work, and also to get some knowledge that we don't have to hopefully send a whole bunch of people to school for, that we could find somebody that has already had this knowledge at hand.
Do you have somebody in mind to
I
fill
have a
this
couple
position?
people in mind, yes, sir, and
You
I'm just
do?
waiting on.
And Chief Winston, do we have money in the budget to pay for this person?
Yes, ma'am. Right now, like I said, working within our current part-time budget, we would make it work. And my goal would be within a year or two to come back to y'all and prove that this would be a full-time position, but let me get some information put together of the value of it that we could work within our part-time budget for now.
How many hours do you foresee?
I have no clue. That's going to depend on, one, the amount of evidence in there, the amount, the rate that we can get it back from court orders and be destroyed or whatever we have to do with it, and the ability of the person, of what their schedule is. If they are retired, they're only going to be able to work certain amounts, or if it's just somebody else, of what their schedule is going to pertain and what our budget looks like. Because I still got to have all these other ventures that we're having in town, Blooming Festival, stuff like that, that I have allocated sworn personnel to do.
This is a part-time position, and it would come from the part-time line item.
Yes, ma'am, that we are currently have.
Okay. It looks like we have 20,000 for
Yes, ma'am, for
part-time.
this fiscal year, yes, ma'am.
So would you be using all of that for this position?
No, ma'am, no. That's for everybody in part-time, sworn positions and what this position would, so we would break it up and kind of work with it and keep track of what we know we have coming up that we need police officers at. And if it got to a certain rate, then that's when we would just stop this person, so we'd have the funds available for Blooming Festival, or when we have the Halloween thing in the winter, of stuff that we have coming up.
I was looking at the minimums and maximums. 39,000 was.
That's just, there's no need to invent the wheel, so I reached out to a bunch of agencies that already have this in place, and that was just kind of their guideline, so that's what I put, if it ever was to come to fruition and be a full-time employee.
Mayor, I would, with our new chief here, he's coming up with some ideas to try to streamline his employees to be proficient in their crafts and not spread them too thin. And I think we need to give him a chance to prove himself. So I would move that we go ahead and approve this, provided it stays within his existing budget.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Well, that's the end of our items that we had to discuss tonight, so I want to thank everybody for coming out. And Councilman, do you have anything, Randy, do you have anything you'd like to say?
I do not, Mayor, thank you.
The next time you see Randy, he's going to have a different name. He's going to add on Grandpa.
Papa.
So anyway, it's exciting. Did you have anything you'd like to share?
Me?
Uh-huh.
Oh, no, just for everybody's knowledge, I'm suffering from a sinus infection. I don't have any disease.
Lynn?
No, I don't.
While JT is here, JT, is Mary Grace still here?
She's still here.
Could you address the noise situation that Mary Grace was referring to? And why can we enforce anything?
So we had a UTV, now that they're street legal, a lot of people are riding them up and down the road since they've become street legal, and they're having outside sound systems on there. There is currently in our writing to enforce the town ordinance that it's between these hours. Now, we can enforce by state law that, nuisance to public or stuff like that. When, to my knowledge, when our officers arrived, they went and speak with the individual. He turned it down and left. And I know that he got belligerent with you that day, and the comment was made, we'll call the police, and then when law enforcement showed up, he wasn't as big as bad as he alleged for you to think. So our guys talked to him. He was nice and polite. I went back and watched the body camera, and he was respectful to my officers. And then after that, he left. Mr. Lansing has talked to me about, we've had numerous other incidents with noise ordinance from Walmart or going from the back of the residence and other stuff. So we've been looking at other municipalities and county stuff that has different literature in there about how we can enforce it better on a town end, and we're still working on that. As far as
So
knowledge.
our current ordinance is not very clear at all.
No, it's vague.
But
It's very vague.
the reading of it, if you look at the entire thing from start to finish, you have to read it in two different ways. The hours between 10 and 6, never allowed. Then the hours that are in between those, so daytime hours and
Right.
evening time hours, the nuisance has to meet those other things. So if it disturbs people's quiet enjoyment of their own property, it's a nuisance and it needs to be addressed, and it can be through the statute. Because it references things like school hours, it references things like church. And so obviously church is not happening at midnight, school hours are not happening at midnight. And so in reading the entire thing, you have to read it that it's talking about daytime hours as well. I've been through it a couple of times. So it could be cleaned up, absolutely. Like we could make it more clear that for the hours of 10 through 6 in the morning, that no loud noises are allowed. And then for the rest of the time, as long as they're not doing these things, which are interrupting school hours, interrupting church hours, not, interrupting people's quiet enjoyment of their own residence, then those things are not allowed. So it can be simply rewritten, I think, or just a sentence or two added to clear that up.
I would like to add some type of terminology in there that most agencies have, that it's within like 50 or 100 feet of audible distance instead of a tone distance. That way, if you're 50 feet away or 100 feet away and you can hear it, then we can do something else about it other than a decibel tone. So, like I said, there's some literature that we've looked at and that we're trying to work on, so we can bring to y'all to maybe
Okay.
update that.
But I don't think that it's unenforceable until then. I
No,
think
no,
it
not.
could be clearer, but I think daytime noise is a problem that is addressed in there that, it can be enforced.
Correct.
Okay.
And the boom boom is so loud that it shakes the windows in your house.
Yes, ma'am.
That's offensive.
Yes, ma'am.
And
Makes
it's,
your heart
with the
increase.
community center, we're very tolerant of what happens. Sometimes it gets really loud, but we understand it's a Friday night, it's a Saturday night, it's a graduation party. But when the music has cursing in it, if the music is so loud that, kids can't go to sleep at 8 o'clock at night, it's something that should be and could be enforced with our current ordinance.
Correct.
And JT, while you're there, these video machines that are located in various places in town that have been deemed unconstitutional by our Supreme Court because they're games of chance, not of skill, are they being removed?
Yes, ma'am. So when August 1st, I sent out letters to where we knew we had the machines at. And just this past week, I got a couple other information that there's machines there, so we're following up on that. But what we did, we give them 10 days to get into compliance, get them removed. We go back in there and visit them, and they had the 4 stores that were in question that we knew about and we served letters on. They were completely gone from the premises. So once I found out more stores or residents have them, then we served them a letter and give them a 10-day grace period, not a grace period, but a 10-day period to remove them. And then we go back in and check it, and then we will spot check when guys are walking in and out to make sure they stay in compliance.
So there's a concerted effort
Right.
to remove.
Yes, ma'am.
How
Is
often
the DA
does-
on board with this?
Yes, ma'am. When Governor Cooper signed this law into effect, everybody had to get on board and start going with it, so it become effective. So we're trying to get on board with it.
How often are the spot checks?
Well, most of them are in convenience stores, so I'm hoping my personnel is going in convenience stores all the time anyway. So they're paying attention to their surroundings when they go in and make sure that these great big machines are in there and that they're notifying us so we can do what we need to do.
Are they in uniform?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes. Some of them are, some of them might, depending
Okay.
on when we spot check.
gotcha. Okay.
Any other questions for Chief Winston? Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Are there any other comments? If not, do I hear a motion that we adjourn? Is there a second? All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned.